Let's get into editing MIDI inside our regions view. As you can see right now, I have an instrument track already set up. I have regions in my regions list to use. So let's go ahead and audition right now some regions within the list. If you want to audition things, you can simply hold down the Option key and click on the region to audition. Let's say I want to listen to a MIDI region in my list here. I can simply Option click and click on it as well. So this can be very useful. Notice that when I'm auditioning a MIDI region, it uses a MIDI track instead. Now in your preferences, you may have to go in and again set up your MIDI tab to where you have your first selected MIDI track or an external device or whatever. Right now I have my first selected as set up as my default for playback. So that's what my audition will choose. So if I Option click on percussion, I'd actually be hearing it as a Rhodes instead. This is because I have this track set up with a Rhodes preset. So let's go ahead and drag this Rhodes out into my track. And then I'm also going to drag the drum, and we're going to drag it to the beginning. I want to go ahead and edit this right on, let's put this in grid and edit this right on bar 2. So right now if I solo this, I should have just the, because the first one had a crash in it. So we're going to take this right here and copy this, and we're going to put it right at 11 and paste it, and then we're also going to repeat it. Let's repeat it 30 times right now. So if we play this back, we should have something like this. Alright, so what we're going to talk about now is something that's really crucial about working in Pro Tools that I think is a huge benefit than most DAWs. What you're going to find out is that in Regions View, when we go into our instrument track here and we keep it on Regions View, we can treat this region like an audio file. So we can go in here and use the A key to trim, or let's say I want to take the ending here and I want to trim at this point and do the S key. Or let's undo that and let's say I want to trim this point right here. And I do a Command T, which is top and tail, and I can drag this to this particular location. So you can see that it's very easy to work within Regions View. You can treat it just like an audio file for top and tailing and trimming to selections. Now if I were to take this and use the trim tool, you can see that it's very simple to trim the region, but what's very interesting, if you notice very carefully in my regions list, it is not creating a new region. It's actually updating that current region. Now also notice as I'm trimming here that the notes are not completely cut off. So let's put this in slip mode. You can see what happens as I trim it in right at this point. You're still getting the notes to play, and then right when you pass the note on information, then it trims those notes off. So that's a little bit more unique than you may be used to in other DAWs. We will talk about how to get around that issue when you get into Notes View a little bit later on. So the selector tool works as normal, and you can do this in shuffle mode, removing time, and so forth. You can also remove this in slip mode, and then you can highlight over it and do a Command H to heal it. So there's a lot of things that are just the same as audio here. So all your different modes work and all your tools work just as normal, and you're going to find yourself using the same tools and functions that you normally do. For example, I can scrub the MIDI data. I can hold down the modifier in the trim tool to modify its direction and trim it. I can go into my zoom tool and zoom in on data, or I can even hold down the control key to do the marquee if you remember that. One thing that's different here is that you cannot do a marquee on the vertical. You notice it just does not work on the vertical view. It only works in horizontal. So we will get into Notes View that allows us to do more editing in that aspect. But right now you can see the main point of working within Regions View for your MIDI data is that it simply acts just like an audio region. Now if you go into your preferences, you can see that there's something unique here. If I go into my MIDI tab, I have the ability to choose what happens when I double-click on a MIDI region. We're going to get into these different windows here later on in separate videos. But right now I can show you that I can put it in a MIDI editor, and then when I double-click on this, I get this individual window. If I go in and I choose to have this set at score editor, then I get my score editor instead. So you can see there's a lot of control here with working with the individual region view as working with individual other views that we will talk about in further detail.